What is good, everyone? Welcome to the channel. My name is Paul. I make videos about Japanese society, life, and culture from the viewpoint of a long-term foreign resident, having been here 20 years. I drop a video every single week, Saturday morning Japan time or Friday evening US time. But I do midweek videos like this sometimes as a driving video or other style. My weekly video is usually I'm walking about a neighborhood and you can actually see me as I talk. But these midweek driving videos are fun and gives me a chance to riff or vlog a little bit longer about a topic. And I decided today to address a kind of blind spot or something that I should have addressed previously but didn't. I've been making videos recently about tourism in Japan and over-tourism and having too many foreign tourists going to all the same places, basically overcrowding certain spots while other places that really should receive tourist attention remain relatively empty. So the obvious question is, and the obvious question I haven't answered is, what would I actually recommend? Like, where should you go? I've talked about the places that are experiencing the overcrowding, but I haven't given my own suggestions or ideas of where you could go as an alternative. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. I'm just going to share some of my favorite spots. This is not an exhaustive list. Basically, I'm going to talk about some of my favorite trips that I feel are still underserved in terms of the number of tourists going there. So let's just get started with the most obvious one, and that is the city of Yokohama. That's where I live, that's where I work, that's where I film most of my videos. And while the foreign tourists are all hitting spots in Tokyo, staying in Tokyo, the first thing I'd say is that hotels are cheaper in Yokohama. I have a good friend who's visited me 2 years in a row and has stayed in Yokohama both times and just was like, dude, the hotels were so much cheaper, like really nice hotels for cheaper prices than kind of not so nice hotels up in Tokyo. So cheaper accommodations because less foreign tourists are going to Yokohama to begin with, much less staying there. And there's so many different things to do in Yokohama. It's a very modern city. Like, you're going to find that the history of Yokohama is mostly all about the mid-1800s up until the present, because Yokohama was one of the ports that opened to the outside world when Japan opened after centuries of isolation. So Yokohama is home to a lot of firsts, like the first ice cream was eaten in Yokohama, the first beef hot pot, like the beef being consumed as part of the Japan diet came in through Yokohama. Basically, you'll see a lot of places in Yokohama that harken back to the heritage of opening to the West, opening to the outside world. The famous red brick warehouses, which are now shops and event spaces, those were warehouses back in the Meiji era, so mid to late 19th century. And there's a lot of places like that. There's the European style houses that were originally like consulates and homes of foreign dignitaries. There's the Motomachi Street, which is this lovely street with all these fancy shops on it that is close to a lot of the places that have that kind of Yokohama history surrounding it. Old sukiyaki restaurants that have been in business for 100 years or more. You've also got some interesting attractions like the Ramen Museum, which is styled to look like old Showa era, like 1950s Japan. And you can try different ramens from all over Japan that maintain shops there. And they even offer small size ramen, so you can sample more than one type of ramen while you're there, so you don't fill up on only one. The Cup Noodle Museum is in Yokohama, so if your jam is instant noodles and you love instant noodles, go check that out. And it's actually a really great spot to take kids because there's fun activities you can do, and you can even make your own like original combination of flavors for cup noodle. And the night view, Minato Mirai at night, is just unbeatable because it's a planned city. if you go back 30 years, there's nothing where Minato Mirai is now. And the city basically planned, we're going to make this modern, beautiful, amazing skyline in this part of Yokohama that's not developed or underdeveloped. And as a result, you have this place that was planned from the outset and is full of theaters, shopping, music venues. There's hotels there. There's the whole Cosmo world, which has theme park rides, including the Ferris wheel that you can see in the photo I'm most likely editing into the video right now. I'm getting a little bit of rain as I wind my way up this mountain. This is one of the reasons why I like these driving vlogs anyways. You get to see some beautiful Japan countryside that you wouldn't normally get to see in most YouTube videos. This is a very winding mountain road that I'm on right now. I'm basically making the trip up from Gotemba in Shizuoka to Fuji Yoshida in Yamanashi. So unfortunately Mount Fuji is covered by clouds today, so we're not going to get a mountain view. I apologize for that. And if you're from the States, you maybe know the term fox wedding, which is when it's sunny but you're getting rain, like we are right now. Kitsune kekkon is actually a Japanese phrase as well. Kitsune is fox and kekkon is wedding. So there actually is an expression that Japanese use, which is, you know, when it's sunny but also raining, that's kitsune kekkon, fox wedding. Okay, where else should you visit? Just south of Yokohama, Kamakura is commonly referred to as the Kyoto of the East. Admittedly though, Kamakura is very busy these days. It is very highly trafficked by tourists. But I would say that if you go during the week, like if you go on a Wednesday or a Thursday or something, you can actually have a really nice time and it's far less crowded. It's the weekends when all the Japanese day trippers go down there, and there's more foreign tourists on the weekends as well. But lots of fun shops. It's called the Kyoto of the East because it has lots of really old, beautiful historical temples and shrines. It was the capital of Japan over 1,000 years ago. So it has history, lots of historical spots, and places where famous samurai did battle. Famously, like if you, for example, walk some of the passes that go into the city, you'll find yourself mostly alone. Like, not a lot of tourists check out those spots, but you will literally be walking in places that used to be heavily fortified and where battles were fought between samurai trying to get into the city, because Kamakura is well protected by the hills around it and there's only a few passes in. And some of those passes are even said to be haunted by ghosts of samurai. So, oh goodness. It looks like we are partially freezing rain here. We've got some hail coming down. It's not just normal rain droplets. If it gets too heavy, I might stop filming for the moment since it might become hard to see out the front. But Kamakura is worth a visit. But let's go more, well, we're indecisive, aren't we, car? Let's go more far afield and talk about, well, I'm not going to talk about the Mount Fuji area because I plan to make a whole series of videos. I'm planning to make 3 videos, 3 tiers of basically plans you can make to come visit the Mount Fuji area. Like the beginner plan, which is the easiest one, a more advanced plan, which would involve like renting a car and hitting more spots, and then the expert tier, which is if you want to hit the spots that only locals know, or even locals are not necessarily familiar with, kind of the secret spots. Hey, check that out. That truck in front of me has a Fuji-san license plate and it says 3776, which is the height of Mount Fuji in meters. Mount Fuji is 3,776 meters tall. They obviously got that license plate as a vanity plate. You can kind of see Mount Fuji peeking out. You can see the snow on the slope up there after we get underneath this sign that is telling you to put chains on your tires in case there's snow on the road. There, Mount Fuji off to the left, barely visible. Obviously the top's not visible. Sorry about that. Usually winter is a great time to be here because Fuji is out more often in the winter, but I got a bit of a rainy day today. But going farther afield, Nagano. Seriously, Nagano is accessible by bullet train, highway buses. Like, there's so many ways to enjoy Nagano and so many places in Nagano to enjoy rather. And Nagano City is wonderful. Zenkoji, the big temple there, is it's a very old pilgrimage spot and a very important temple in Japan. It's beautiful. The town is cute. Lots of cool shops and restaurants. And what I also remember is that it's very easy to get around Nagano City, to be honest. Matsumoto, beautiful original black castle. Like, it wasn't damaged in the Second World War, and it wasn't burned down in samurai times at all, so it's an all-original castle, which are relatively rare. Absolutely gorgeous. Great food to be had in Matsumoto. I actually thought, try to get a job in Nagano area university would be cool, so like Nagano City or Matsumoto City I think would both be very livable. Just outside of Nagano, there's so many, well, not just Nagano City, but Nagano Prefecture in general. There's so much great hiking and skiing and beautiful nature. Basically, if you want to enjoy anything outdoors, Nagano is a great place to hit up. And I would also recommend the old Nakasendo post roads, basically the Edo era villages that served as spots for inns and places to stay back in the old days when you would be walking from Edo, now Tokyo, to Kyoto or vice versa. And basically those towns are still full of Edo era houses and inns, and they're beautiful, and they don't see crowds and crowds of tourists. The last time I was there, I stayed overnight, which I actually recommend because you get to stay in an old inn and enjoy that kind of Japanese style hospitality. And also I'll never forget waking up in the early morning and going out and walking those streets amongst the old houses, and it was a gorgeous kind of winter morning, and I was the only one out there. Like, I had the whole town to myself, it felt. So yeah, absolutely gorgeous. I think it was November, and there were a lot of persimmons being dried on strings outside of these old houses, which gave them this kind of a festive look, and also just looked like old-fashioned Japan. So it was really a magical experience. Even farther afield, if you want to go farther north, I would recommend Niigata, and specifically, I honestly recommend jump on the ferry and head to Sado Island. I had a great time on Sado Island when I went there with my wife years ago. You really do need a car, so if you rent a car, that's the best way to get around the island. Lots of beautiful, rugged coastline to explore, various tourist spots to check out, amazing seafood to be had, which will change with the season. We were there in September, so at that time it was squid and sweet shrimp that were the main focus of the food. But more towards winter, you'll get into like oyster and more kind of deep sea fish as the features. It is a far trip. I mean, the ferry ride over there is, I can't remember exactly how long it was, but it's definitely over an hour to get to the island. But it's very Japanese, and you feel you'd probably be one of the only foreign tourists there. We've managed to get behind a very, very slow vehicle on this mountain road, which sometimes happens. Luckily, I'm not on a tight schedule, so I'm not going to get upset about it. Sendai, Miyagi Prefecture, and that area, Matsushima, the beautiful islands off of. There's some self-defense force vehicles. We're getting very close to Camp Fuji, which is on, self-defense force camp, which is on Mount Fuji's side, mountainside. But yeah, Sendai, really lovely city. Again, I would say it's very walkable. It's very easy to get around. Like, a rental bike will really get you places in that city. Nothing's terribly far away. If you love beef tongue, that's what it's famous for, amongst other things like zunda mochi, which is a mochi, like edamame, sweet edamame, Japanese style sweet, wagashi. Sendai is also accessible by bullet train, and then you can take the regular train line up to Matsushima and go out and tour those islands and enjoy the views. And again, more beautiful seafood can be had there for sure. I feel like Miyagi and kind of Tohoku region is very underserved by foreign tourists. Heading west or southwest, I guess you'd say, Nara Prefecture, I think, is underappreciated, and you might be thinking that sounds crazy because like Nara Koen, Nara Park, and Todaiji, the giant temple with the great Buddha there, is very, very crowded. I'm not talking about there. I'm talking about the rest of the prefecture. Like if you get out of that part of Nara and explore the rest of the place, it's absolutely beautiful. My friend and I had a car and we drove around southern Nara and just stopped off at temples and shrines along the way that are kind of nestled up into the mountains surrounding the eastern portion of the prefecture. We were there in July, and so the rice paddies were lush, and it was just like the entire countryside was just beautiful, lush green, surrounded in the distance by these gorgeous mountains that are also, fully lush and green at that time of the year. Not the kind of browner landscape we are driving through at the moment. But yeah, Nara, and if you want to go a little bit farther, keep driving down to Mie Prefecture, where you can visit Ise Jingu, which is in many respects the most important grand shrine in Japanese Shinto. And I won't say that it's not crowded. It can be very crowded at times there, but it's going to still be mostly Japanese tourists. Not a lot of foreign tourists get down there. And again, lots of rugged coastline to explore, and actually some really beautiful places to stay, and lovely food and local seafood, etc. That's excellent down there. But if you don't want to head that far away from Tokyo, like just the bullet train to Nagoya, I think Nagoya and like Shiga Prefecture, Lake Biwa there, I think is underappreciated. Everyone just keeps going on to Kyoto and ignores Nagoya, which, if I had to liken it, Nagoya is kind of like Chicago in America. It's not as famous as New York and LA. It's not, Tokyo and Kyoto, but it has a lot to offer in terms of entertainment and charm and things to explore. Some very good food in Nagoya. And again, it's right on the bullet train. Like you could just go there and stop off and chill there for an afternoon and then head out to Kyoto later or something. Like it's worth a one stop in my opinion. I have to say, I was thinking of recommending Gifu and Takayama, but I went there so long ago, I actually don't know nowadays how busy it is. Because I know Shirakawa-go, like the Japanese UNESCO World Heritage place where you have all the old preserved farmhouses. I think that's gotten pretty popular with foreign tourists, and there's a lot more there. I don't know enough to say if that place is now really crowded or not, but it was such a great time when I went there almost 20 years ago now that I would recommend it as a great place to go. I just remember the train trip up through the mountains as being enjoyable in and of itself. But if it's not overcrowded, yeah, Takayama is a great place to visit. Coming back towards Tokyo, I'd say Shizuoka Prefecture. Again, a lot of people just take the bullet train straight through Shizuoka Prefecture all the way to Kyoto without stopping. But Shizuoka City, I think, is very worth stopping off at. And then Atami, which is an onsen town. Basically, if you can get a car, or there is a train line that goes down to the end of the Izu Peninsula, I think Izu is underserved as well in terms of foreign tourists enjoying it. If you want to have great hot springs experience and you want to go to a place that's a little less crowded than Hakone, for instance, in Kanagawa Prefecture, the Izu Peninsula in Shizuoka Prefecture, just west of Kanagawa. Great onsen, great beaches in the summertime, lots of tourist attractions. There's a lot of great places to take kids in in Izu Peninsula rather. Basically, we traveled out there as a family when my kid was very young, like 3, 4, 5 years old. We went out there like 3 years in a row. Excuse me. And enjoyed the hot springs and the attractions for children. And like there's an aquarium and there's a big safari park down there, among other things. So those are places that are not, that's not that far from Tokyo, and it's very accessible. Day trips from Tokyo, in addition to Kamakura, I would say Nikko. Go see Toshogu in Tochigi Prefecture. That's a great place to go visit. You can stay overnight, which I've done, but it's also very common as a day trip. Again, that's another one I would recommend going in the week, like Wednesday, Thursday, because it's really popular with Japanese tourists who are mostly going to be there on the weekends and national holidays. So a weekday would probably be your best bet to head up to Nikko in Tochigi. There's a bunch of other places I could mention. I have not been to every prefecture, of course. I've been in Japan a long time, but I still have a long list of places that I need to go. For example, I have never been to Shikoku or Kyushu Islands. Like I've been to, I've been on the main island this entire time and all around the main island, essentially. I've been to a few islands off of the main island, like Sado that I mentioned earlier, and I've been to Hokkaido as well, but I have not been to Kyushu and Shikoku. And I would say probably the first place I really want to go in Kyushu is Fukuoka. That is the in place right now for all of my university students. Like when I ask university students where they're going for their spring vacation, Fukuoka is one of the number one destinations for students that are actually, taking a spring vacation trip. It's just become a place that's known for getting really good food and not so expensive accommodations, and it's a great place to hang out, and there's good night spots for food and drink, and so it's become pretty popular. At least, I can't speak and say that like it's become a huge draw for university students everywhere, but at least the university I teach at, the number of students who have been saying recently that, yeah, I'm going to Fukuoka, or me and my friends are going to Fukuoka, or even, my sports club, we're as a group, we're just all going out to Fukuoka. So that seems to be like an in spot. It sounds like it'd be fun to check that out. It apparently is really good for food, like getting a kind of a food tour of Japan. There's places where there's regularly yatai, or food stalls, like street food set up, which is an experience that you don't get as much in Japan as like other Asian countries. Certainly in the past, and there's still areas in Tokyo where you'll find food stalls, but street food has mostly been relegated these days to festival times where they set up temporary stalls for festivals. But in Fukuoka, they've still got streets where it's a regular thing. Miyazaki Prefecture down there, I've heard wonderful things. Kumamoto is also a very famous and popular spot, but I have a lot of friends that have lived or are living in Kagoshima, and I would love to get down there and check out the Sakurajima volcano and drink some Japanese shochu, which is their distilled liquor. If you want potato shochu, that's where it's most famously made. I believe they pride themselves, and they're the only prefecture in Japan that they don't make Nihonshu. They don't make sake down there. They don't make rice wine. They only make shochu in Kagoshima. Lots of good food to be had down there as well. So, I mean, I'm basically saying I've never been there, but I'm recommending it anyways because that's really one of the tops on my list places to go that I really want to head next. There's so many other places I could mention, but this video is getting kind of long. If you'd like a part 2 to hear about other places that I've been or other places that are next on my list that I absolutely am planning to go next because I plan to, they're places that are definitely worth visiting based on word of mouth that I've heard and from my own research. Let me know if you'd like to hear a part 2 of this. I do want to finish though today by saying that I am going to say Kyoto is a great place to go. And you might be like, wait a second, isn't that where the worst of the over-tourism is? To which I would say yes, if you go to the places on quote-unquote the route, or the route, however you prefer that to be pronounced. The places where all of the foreign tourists go. Because I made a whole video about this, and I'll link it below because I think it deserves being highlighted again if you haven't seen that video. It's called Kyoto Without Crowds. And the fact remains is that if you just look at the lists of the places on the route or the route, and if you don't go there, you'll have an experience that's not crowded. You'll have an experience where you might be the only foreign tourist in that temple or in that shrine or in that little shopping area. Because if you get out of those main ports of call, so to speak, the rest of Kyoto is amazing. The last time I was in Kyoto was in 2023, June. Tons of tourists were there at the time. Kyoto Station was an absolute madhouse. But it's absolutely a Kyoto of two faces. Hyper-crowded areas and other areas where you feel like you have the place to yourself. Grand old temples and shrines. Adorable little shopping streets. Historic sites. Historic restaurants, like a little restaurant I go every time when I go to Kyoto. It's a soba restaurant that's been there for 300 years. And when I was eating there last time, I got a table right away, and I didn't see any other foreign tourists. The other customers were all Japanese. It's like, yeah, it's a Kyoto of two faces. As long as you stay away from the route, you can have an incredible experience in Kyoto, and it's not that hard to have because the city's very navigatable. Wait, which word is it? Easy to navigate. So basically, no excuse. You can have a private Kyoto experience for all intents and purposes if you just, step off the beaten path. Okay, this video is already too long, I think, so I'm going to stop it there. Let me know if you'd like to hear part 2. I appreciate those of you who come along for the ride every week. These midweek videos get about, 1/6 the views of my normal video, but I like doing them. I like getting my thoughts out there, and I like kind of sharing my drive with you because, I don't know, it feels like I have company along for the ride, and it takes what would otherwise be kind of a dull commute, so to speak, turns it into something that feels social, even though I still am technically alone. But it feels like I'm not alone. Thank you for coming along. I will catch you on the next week video. I hope that you check out my weekly video, my walk and talk, where I go around a neighborhood. That'll drop Saturday morning or Friday evening Japan time, unless I screw up the drop like I did last week, and I meant to schedule it, and I ended up making it go live a day and a half earlier than I intended, and didn't realize that I'd done so until a day later. So those of you who saw that video and were wondering why it dropped early, yeah, that was just me flubbing the drop. Anyway, I'm rambling on. I will stop. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe, hit like, Share the video with anyone you think might be interested or is traveling here soon and would like these recommendations. And I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.